My name is Royal Alec, and today I want to tell you something that still feels like a nightmare. This is not just a story, it is my life. Every word you hear is real. It happened to me, and even now, when I remember it, my heart shakes. I was never the girl who stood out. Not the prettiest, not the richest, not the one people admired. I was just me, ordinary. People around me judged me, whispered about me, laughed at me for how I looked. My weight was always their favorite joke. They didn't see my heart, my dreams, my struggles. They only saw what they wanted to mock, and I stayed quiet. I learned to carry my pain silently, with a smile on my face, because I thought maybe, just maybe, someday someone would look at me differently. Then one day, he came into my life. He was rich. He was handsome. The kind of man every girl noticed. When his eyes met mine, I almost didn't believe it. Why would someone like him look at someone like me? At first, I thought it was just a passing glance. But then, he spoke. His words were kind, his smile warm, his presence so strong that for the first time in my life I felt seen. He kept coming closer. Compliments, conversations, small moments that felt magical. My heart started to trust him. I thought maybe my prayers had been answered. Maybe this was real. For once, I let myself dream. But what I didn't know was that behind the charm, behind the smile, something cruel was happening. His rich friends had dared him. A cruel bet. A heartless game. They told him, marry her, just to prove you can. I didn't know it then. I had no idea my life was being used as entertainment. When he proposed to me, my world spun. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to say yes, but at the same time, fear crawled inside me. People around me reacted in different ways. Some mocked me openly. Others said I was lucky. But I shut their voices out. I wanted to believe that this was real, that maybe I deserved happiness too. The wedding day came. Everyone was watching. I wore my dress. I tried to hold my head high, but my heart was racing. Something didn't feel right. I told myself it was just nerves. Still, somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "What if this isn't love?" But I silenced that thought. I smiled. I said yes. I stepped into a new life, holding on to hope, even while doubt scratched at me from the inside. After the wedding, small cracks started to show. His eyes didn't shine the same way. His words sometimes felt cold. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. I told myself, love takes time. But whispers reached me, quiet at first, then louder. I began to hear things I wasn't supposed to hear. Laughter, mockery, words like bet, joke, game. I tried to ignore them, but they wrapped around my heart like chains. I smiled in front of everyone. I hid my tears in the dark, but deep down, I already knew the truth. I just didn't want to face it. I told myself again and again, maybe with time things will change. Maybe he will really love me. Maybe the bet, if it existed, would fade away. I wanted so badly to believe in that hope, but the truth was waiting. And when it finally came out, it broke me. At first, I tried to pretend everything was fine. I told myself, "Royal, you are married now. Things will get better. Give it time." But deep inside, I could feel something strange. He was there, yet not really there. His smile looked different now. His eyes didn't search for mine like they once did. The warmth I thought I saw before, it was setting. I would cook for him, dress up for him, try to make him feel special. Sometimes he would smile, sometimes he wouldn't even notice. I told myself it's normal. Maybe he is just busy. Maybe this is how marriage feels. But whispers began to reach me. It started with little things. A laugh here, a joke there. When I entered the room, people stopped talking. Sometimes I caught the look in his friends' eyes, like they were hiding something. I ignored it. I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. But the truth has a way of finding you. One night, I overheard something I was never supposed to hear. His friends were talking, laughing loudly. And then I heard it. The word, bet. "Can't believe he actually did it," one of them said. "Man, the wedding was worth every penny of the bet," another laughed. "She still doesn't know, right?" In that moment, my heart stopped. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry, but I froze. I couldn't breathe. My whole world felt like it was crashing down. I staggered back into my room, shaking, replaying their words over and over. My hands covered my mouth as tears poured out. It's true. It was all a game. A bet. I had been fooled, used, humiliated. When he came home that night, I tried to look into his eyes. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to hear him deny it. But instead, all I saw was guilt hiding behind his calm face. He didn't need to confess. I already knew. Still, I asked. My voice was shaking. "Tell me, was it true?" He didn't answer right away. Silence filled the room. My heart screamed in that silent then. Finally, he whispered something I will never forget. It started as a bet. I broke. My knees gave up. My body trembled. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "Why? Why me? Am I so worthless that I was just entertainment for you and your friends?" He tried to explain. He said, "At first, it was just a game. But later, I started caring for you." But how could I believe him? The foundation of everything was a lie. My marriage, my dreams, my love. It was all built on a cruel joke. Days turned into nights filled with tears. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. I had lost myself. My soul felt heavy with shame and betrayal. People around me began to whisper louder. Some said, "Well, we knew it was a bet." Others mocked me, laughing behind my back. The same people who once called me unlucky now called me foolish. I felt trapped. I wanted to run away, but where could I go? My heart was tied to him, even though my mind screamed to break free. I still loved him, and that was the cruelest part. I loved the man who destroyed me, but something inside me began to change. At first, it was just a small spark. Then it grew stronger. A voice inside me said, "You cannot stay broken. You cannot let this define you." Yes, I was a victim. Yes, I was humiliated, but I was not going to stay on the ground forever. I began to see the truth clearly. He had broken me, but he had also awakened me. I had two choices: Either live my life in shadows or rise and become stronger than I ever was. And that's when my journey of transformation began. I still remember that morning. I woke up with swollen eyes, my pillow wet from tears. My whole body felt weak, but inside my heart there was a new fire. For the first time, I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "Royal, you are more than this pain." It wasn't easy. Every corner of the house reminded me of the lies. Every smile from him felt like poison. But deep inside, I knew if I stayed the same broken girl, I would lose myself forever. So I started small. The first thing I did was take back my silence. For too long, I had cried quietly, hiding my pain. But now, when he looked at me, I didn't hide my tears. I let him see the damage he had done. I let him feel the weight of his actions. At night, when he tried to explain again, I stopped him. "Don't use words," I told him. "Your words are already broken. Show me in actions if you really mean it." And then I began focusing on myself. I picked up books again, the ones I used to love before my marriage. I started journaling, writing my pain, my anger, my dreams. Page after page, my pen became my healer. One day, I stood in front of the mirror and said, "I am Royal Alec. I am not just a victim. I am a fighter." It felt strange at first, but slowly, those words began to feel true. The world outside, though, was still cruel. People laughed at me. Some girls whispered, "See, that's the girl who was married for a bet." Their giggles cut me deeper than knives. But instead of running away, I lifted my chin and walked past them. Each step I took felt heavy, but it also felt powerful. I knew I couldn't erase the past, but I could write my future. And then something surprising happened. The same people who laughed at me began to notice my strength. One woman whispered to me, "I don't know how you're standing after all this, but you inspire me." That sentence stayed in my heart. Me? Inspire someone? For so long I had seen myself as weak. But slowly, I began to realize my scars were not signs of weakness. They were proof that I survived. At home, he noticed the change too. My silence turned into strength. My broken tears turned into sharp words. I wasn't afraid to call him out anymore. "You broke me," I told him one evening, "but I will not let you keep me broken." Sometimes he tried to apologize. Sometimes he grew angry. But no matter what he did, I didn't bend. I was no longer the same naive girl who once thought love was enough. I had grown. One night, as I lay awake, I thought of my future. I imagined myself standing in front of other women, telling them, "Don't let betrayal define you. Don't let shame silence you." The idea gave me strength. My pain could become someone else's hope. My story could save another girl from falling into the same trap. That's when I knew this was bigger than just me. I wasn't just surviving for myself. I was surviving for every girl who had ever been betrayed, mocked, or used like a game. I looked at the stars through my window and whispered, "One day, I will turn this pain into power. One day, my name will not be remembered for a bet, but for my strength." And in that moment, I truly believed it. The journey wasn't over. The wounds were still raw, the nights still lonely, but something inside me had shifted forever. I was not just Royal Alec, the girl who was fooled. I was Royal Alec, the girl who refused to stay down. There was a day I will never forget. It was a hot afternoon, and I was walking through the marketplace. People's eyes followed me, as always. Some looked with pity, some with judgment. And then, a group of women whispered behind my back. I heard one of them laugh softly and say, "That's her, the bet wife." For a moment, I froze. My chest tightened, my throat burned, and the old shame tried to pull me down again. But then, I breathed deep. Instead of running, I turned around. I walked straight toward them. Their eyes widened, expecting me to cry or hide. But I didn't. I looked right at them and said, "Yes, I am Royal Alec. You know my story. But don't you dare think my story is weakness. I'm still here, I'm still standing." The market fell silent. The women lowered their eyes. I didn't wait for their reply. I walked away with my head held high. That day, for the first time, I felt truly free. After that moment, something inside me shifted forever. I realized that silence gives power to those who hurt us. But when we speak up, when we own our story, we take that power back. So I started speaking. First, in small ways. I shared my feelings with a close neighbor, a woman who had always been kind to me. As I told her my story, tears ran down her cheeks. She whispered, "I've been hiding my own pain for years. Hearing you speak gives me courage." Her words hit me like lightning. If my broken story could give another woman strength, then maybe this was my calling. Slowly, I began sharing more. At gatherings, when women talked about life and marriage, I no longer sat in silence. I told them, "Don't ignore the signs. Don't lose yourself for someone else, and never allow anyone to treat your life as a game." Some were shocked. Some clapped. Some even cried. But all of them listened. And with every word I spoke, my own wounds began to heal. At home, things grew tense. He didn't like the new me. He didn't like the fire in my voice. "Why do you keep talking about it?" He snapped once. "Why can't you just forget and move on?" I looked at him and said, "Because forgetting means it will happen again. To me, to another girl, to someone else's daughter. I will not be silent anymore." From that day, he knew the old royal was gone. The new royal was unshakable. And then, life gave me an unexpected chance. One evening, a local women's group invited me to speak at their gathering. At first, I hesitated. My heart pounded. What if they laugh? What if they judge me more? But deep inside, I knew I had to do it. So I stood before them, shaking, nervous, but determined. And I told my story from the very beginning. The bet, the betrayal, the nights of tears, and the fire that rose from the ashes. As I spoke, I saw their faces change. Shock, anger, tears. By the end, the whole room was silent. And then, slowly, they began to clap. Not the kind of clap for entertainment, but the kind of clap that said, "We see you, we feel you, we stand with you." That night, I walked home with tears rolling down my cheeks. But these were not tears of pain. They were tears of healing, tears of power. For the first time, I understood. My pain had a purpose. From then on, I made a promise to myself. I will not just survive. I will help others survive too. I will turn my wounds into a lantern for those still lost in the dark. And with each step forward, my shame faded, replaced by strength. I was no longer just the girl betrayed in a cruel bet. I was Royal Alik, the girl who turned betrayal into bravery. But little did I know, the hardest test was still waiting, because when you rise, the world doesn't always cheer. Sometimes it tries to pull you back down, and soon I would face the moment that would decide any and everything. Whether my new voice would be silenced forever, or whether it would echo louder than ever before. I thought I had faced the worst already. The betrayal, the shame, the whispers. I thought nothing could hurt me more than that. But life has a way of testing you, even when you think you've found your strength. It happened on a quiet evening. I had just returned from another women's gathering where I spoke about my journey. I felt proud, almost light-hearted. For once, I was smiling. But when I stepped inside the house, his face was dark with anger. "Why are you telling people our business?" he shouted. His voice shook the walls. I stood frozen for a second. Then, with all the calmness I could gather, I said, "It's not just our business. It's my life, my story, my truth." That one sentence broke him. He exploded. Words, harsh and cruel, poured out of his mouth. He accused me of shaming him, of destroying his image, of being ungrateful. The old me would have collapsed, begging for mercy, but not anymore. This time, I stood tall. My voice didn't shake. "You destroyed your own image the day you turned love into a bet," I told him. He went silent. For a moment, I thought he might strike me. His fists clenched, his eyes filled with rage. But instead, he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I sat down, shaking, tears spilling down my face. Not from fear, but from release. I knew, in that moment, I had finally broken free. The next days were hard. He tried to make me silent again. He threatened me, begged me, even promised change. But my answer stayed the same. You cannot undo the pain. You cannot erase the truth. And then something extraordinary happened. Women I had spoken to began reaching out. They came to me with their own stories, stories of betrayal, of abuse, of silence. One whispered, "Ro, girl, I want to be strong like you." Another cried, "Your words gave me courage to leave my pain." Slowly, I realized my story was no longer just mine. It was becoming a voice for many. One day, I was invited to share my story in front of a larger gathering, with not just women but men, elders and leaders. My hands trembled as I stood before them. I looked at the crowd and saw judgment in some eyes, curiosity in others. And then I spoke. I told them everything. How love had been mocked, how my heart was broken for entertainment, how shame almost destroyed me, and how I rose from the ashes, stronger than before. By the end, there were tears in the audience. Even men who the once laughed at me lowered their heads. And then the applause came, loud, strong, unstoppable. In that moment, I felt something powerful. Freedom. Not just freedom from his betrayal, but freedom from silence, from shame, from fear. I walked off that stage knowing my life had changed forever. I was no longer defined by a cruel bet. I was defined by my strength, my voice, my courage. And as I looked at the faces in the crowd, I realized something deeper. My story wasn't rare. It was everywhere, hidden behind closed doors, buried under silence. I was just the one brave enough to speak it. That night, lying under the stars, I whispered to myself, "Royal Alec, you survived. You turned your pain into power. And now, you will keep fighting. Not just for yourself, but for every girl who thinks she's too broken to stand." And that is the truth I want to leave with you. We all carry wounds. We all face betrayal in some form. But your scars are not weakness. They are proof you survived. Proof that you are still here. Proof that you are stronger than the ones who tried to break you. So I ask you, how many more girls must suffer in silence before the world listens? How many more hearts must be broken as a joke, as a game, before love is treated with the respect it deserves? This is not just my story. It is the story of many. And maybe it could be yours too. But remember this, no matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how heavy the shame, you can rise, you can heal, and you can turn your pain into something the world will never forget. Because I did. And so can you.